it out and put in one of these. So I did that a while back. And I got rid of all my switches, because if I just put that on, I would still have switches on the kiln, the switches burn out. You know, I eliminated all the switches years ago, because they were just burning out frequently. And when you plug, with high voltage, when you plug things in, the wires expand and contract a little bit as they get hot, especially if, well, never mind. But they expand and contract, and things get loose. And anytime you get arcing and sparking with electrical wires, you're talking welding temperatures, 6,000 degrees. So you'll melt your plug to shit. And then you'll have to replace it. So I've directly wired I cut the plugs off and just spliced the two things together with something called a butt splice, but it basically welds them together with pressure. Anyway.
I'm not gonna take notes on that.
That's fine.
I'm just gonna say.
And while we're at it, let's talk about all the different types of firing. Because if you're out on your own, you've got so many options. So there's gas firing, high fire reduction, there's mid fire reduction, there's oxidation, high fire, mid fire, low fire. There's soda firing, there's salt firing, there's raku firing, and pit firing, and you can even fire in a microwave. You might have seen the little videos. I just shake my head, but whatever. So all these firings have different characteristics. I didn't mention wood firing. It's not even on my list. But, you know, you get different effects. They can be fun. And things like pit firing, very simple.
How hard would it be to get a wood-fired kiln, an outdoor wood fire? Would that be impossible?
You'd have to build it,
Yeah.
probably.
That would require a pretty sizable group of people.
Yeah, talk to
Because
Audra.
wood firing is usually several days long. You need to stoke constantly. People are stoking all night, and shifts and all this.
Don't they do,
And you need lots of wood, and that means either you buy it or you're cutting it.
down in Touchstone, you can, I think you can be a part of a wood firing.
Right.
Be
You
a
can
portion of
pay.
it. So there are, if you contact
think
the
it's-
larger groups,
I think it's $300 to be part of their wood firing.
but you can bring your own pots and they give you cubic feet and, you know, then you're part of it.
Something like that is what I would be interested in.
Yeah.
Like,
Talk to Audra from Pittsburgh Arts and Media. She's trying to figure out something.
Yeah.
Callan does wood firings too, right? She's still in the group.
Callan Smith has a wood kill up in Ligonier. She's not looking for more people to fire with her. But there are wood kilns around, and people who have wood kilns need a core group of people who share that space, because nobody can fire a wood kill by themselves.
Because it's a 24-hour thing, and you have to monitor the temperature.
Yeah, it's just, you'd never be able to do it. It's too much.
Okay, but with a group of people, it's possible.
Right. Yeah, it's not, yeah.
And if you get to the point where you're thinking, yeah, maybe I need a group of people, Clay Pittsburgh is a great place to like advertise that. Like, I need a group of people looking to fire wood at this location. Who wants to help? Yeah, exactly.
It's way more expensive than firing my kiln.
Interesting.
To pay for the wood and to buy the bricks, you need hard bricks, you know, it's expensive. Talon got her bricks from Dale Huffman, who had a wood kill south of here. And so she saves some money on bricks. She's got it out at some doctor's house in Ligonier, and he has many acres with wood, and he's got his own sawmill, and you know, so she's combining these things to pull together what she needs. Yeah. Okay,
This is
so
why CCAC does Raku firings.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Reiku is a legal pronunciation,
Raku, yeah.
yes.
Raku.
It's probably, I think it's probably the proper pronunciation.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about all this stuff relating to firing, and let's just talk about what's going on up here. So, I have a slop bucket, and I would not put in the slop bucket anything that I could really wedge with, but things that need to be slaked down, I would put in there. At the end of the week, we take the contents of the slop bucket, we spread it out on that bat, right there, the big one. It usually takes, it could take up to 3 days before it's dry enough to pug. And again, I have to watch it, I have to baby it, I have to the edges tend to get drier, so I cut the edges off first. And I roll it up and I slice it up and I stack it up and I mess with it. It's just, you gotta keep an eye on stuff. And then I've got all these buckets on wheels that I put clay in. I've got a bucket for the slop, and I've got 3 other buckets over there for throwable clay. And then I've got a pug mill over here, which is very nice, and you're probably not gonna have one.
Your pug mill is attached to
And
the
I've got a
body.
wedging table, which is at the right height for me and most people. But if you're real tall or real short, you'd want to adjust your your wedging table. I have a slab roller upstairs, that's nice to have. I've got an older style, I think the newer ones are probably superior. It's a different concept altogether. Mine has a roller that rolls down the table and squishes the clay. The newer ones have 2 sheets of canvas that feed through and the clay gets squished that way. So the rollers are stationary and the clay is moving. And it requires a much less rigid, robust structure because I'm squashing the clay down between one roller and a table, and this is squashing it between 2 rollers, and so long as those 2 rollers are locked in place, there's no stress on the table. So the table can be really cheesy, and it works just fine.
And you can make your own plaster bats, and there's tons of videos online
Right.
on how to do that in
And
terms
I've
of
poured
creating it.
all these myself. When I make those, like the plaster bat on top of the table, I take 4 2x4s and I make whatever size I want. I screw them together, I lay a sheet of plastic in, and I pour plaster in there. Okay. So, we've covered firing, and what else is going on up here? Well, I like things on wheels, so most of my stuff is on wheels. I like stools. I like stools because when I get up, I can go like this, and when I go to the wheel, I can, okay? So I would not want anything with a back. I've seen people throw on office chairs, I don't know how they do it, because when I center, I lean in big time. And, if you're on an office chair, you just scoot across the floor. But people who throw that way, they pull the clay toward them instead of pushing it away. But then they're using these muscles to pull, whereas when I do this, I'm just using my weight. And it's not physically, not much exertion. What else? Wear boards, you need wear boards. There's wear boards over there.
We don't tend to use wear boards in class, we just put our pieces up, but wear boards, a lot of when you're making pots, you don't wanna get done with the pot, pick it up, walk 10 feet, you just wanna be able to set it.
Yeah, and racks like this are quite nice, because you can have the wear board beside you, and then you bring it over here, and you put it on the rack. A good source of this sort of thing is Restaurant Supply House.
Ooh.
Yeah,
So what other supplies do you need? You need sponges, you need bats, towels.
You don't have to have a
These are
bat.
particularly
No,
nice.
No, you can take the things.
These
out
are
of the-
grout sponges for like when you do a tile floor, but they're really nice. So I highly recommend them. Electric kilns have these spy hole things. We call them spy holes because in the old days you had to actually look in and see the cone fall over. And then you knew it was done and you turned it off. What a pain. Nowadays, we don't use these, but if you wanted to, maybe accelerate your cooling a little bit, you could pull out some of these plugs, which would help it to cool a little faster, but I never found it did much good. But that's what they're for. When you're working with electric kilns, you need a special kind of wiring inside that has a heat-resistant coating. So that's something, and like, so I've got several boxes of cones here, but then I have, like, this is all extra electric kill crap. And I was surprised that I was able to find this. But I'm glad I saved these pieces.
So when you're thinking of a space to do all of your pottery in, you gotta think about, throwing space, beginning greenware, drying space, after I trim it, where does it go space, sit there for a while, after I biscuit, where does it go space, like, there's a lot of space in the studio that we use throughout the process, and now you're gonna try and squish that down to an 8x10 space. How do you best accommodate that?
And it's really great to have a washer and dryer in here,
Yeah,
you know.
you need a sink, you need a water source.
Yeah. You need all those things. But you can keep it as simple as possible,
Yeah.
you know.
So you mentioned traps. What kind of traps do you put on?
I know you can buy them,
Yeah.
Okay, so there are
but it's not
lots
like
of
the
trap
U-trap.
designs.
Yeah.
So one is, here's your sink, and you have the tail piece come down, and then you have a 5-gallon bucket. And you have an exit up here. And so the water comes out of your sink and goes into this 5-gallon bucket. This tailpiece may extend like down to there, I don't really know. I've never done this, but I've seen pictures. And then, the sediment collects down here, and then this goes into your sewer line and out to the street. Okay? So that's a very simple homemade trap.
Last thing you want is, clay backing up in your,
But you would not be able to get your 5-gallon bucket off of here unless you had some kind of joint here where you could disconnect that. So then you can slide your 5-gallon bucket out. Yeah. But that's, a homemade trap. And they work. What else?